It is a brand new year. That means it's a brand new season of Behind the Gavel. One thing hasn't changed. Our board president, Liz Rogan, remains the board president. We just had a reorganization. You were nominated. You took the oath of office again. And before we get into some of the highlights from reorganization, you said some really important things that sort of set the tone for the year. Could you remind our viewers of some of those things?
Well, I think one of the things I talked about was that I really want us to be a model. We used to be a model for communities all over this region, and how the board worked and how the staff worked with the board, and that's really one of the things I want to be again, is to be a model for the community in terms of many things, not just the board and how the staff works with the board and how the staff works with the community, but also in terms of what we do as a community for sustainability and for diversity and innovation, things like that. I talked a lot about hopes for the future, like respect. There's a lot of differences, and actually I think that that's an easy thing to build off of, as opposed to look at as a division. It's a good thing to be able to use, to be able to understand people's differences is an important way of being able to get to a better solution. So I think that's important. And the other thing I think I talked a little bit about was really being a community as opposed to being individuals, and that to be a community takes some sacrifice, and sometimes it takes doing things that you don't particularly want or like, or there's not a black and white. So being part of a community means sometimes you have to agree to something that you would rather not for the betterment of the good. There
was a real positive tone. There was a real positive feeling in the room that night. And, wherever possible, to look for where we can agree and build off of that. Right. That was the sense that I got. Our Township Secretary, Eileen Traynor, presides every year over reorganization. She does it beautifully with such grace and humor. She is so good on her feet. And she talked about a fresh start.
Yep, it is. It's a new year. 2012 is going to be a good year. We'll have lots to look forward to.
Yes, and we accomplished a lot in 2011. We want to get into some of that, and I know you will never talk about some of the things that were said about you, but your first year of leadership as board president was completed, and the confidence of your colleagues was evident at reorganization. Jane Delheim nominated you to continue to serve as the board president, and I wanted to just read a couple of things that she said. Liz has spoken consistently about the need to preserve the quality of life which we enjoy in Lower Merion. She recognizes that the failure to safeguard that legacy carries the threat of losing it forever, and thereby diminish the worth of the community, whether financially or in its safety, health, or welfare. She recognizes that there are to be hard decisions, and she asks of others no more than she asks of herself in commitment to this community. I watched your face as she was saying these things. I know it touched you deeply, and yet there were nods of agreement all around. And also Brian McGuire, in seconding your nomination, said, President Rogan demonstrated extraordinary patience and thoughtfulness in our efforts to make our board meetings run more efficiently and in a more collegial manner. And that goes back to some of the comments that you just made. I know you're far more comfortable talking about your colleague, Vice President Paul McElhaney. George Manos nominated Paul McElhaney to continue to serve as Vice President, and he said that Vice President McElhaney demonstrated a grasp, both instinctive and at the same time thorough, of the essential financial issues confronting the township, especially during these trying economic times, and an understanding as well of the fundamental aspects of the township's capital improvement plan and the important role it plays in maintaining the value of this wonderful place that we know and love called Lower Merion.
He adds so much to the board, Vice President McElhaney. I mean, Paul's got a lot of skill sets and a lot of smarts, and I think that the community is really very lucky that he's willing to serve.
And Commissioner Dan Bernheim seconded the nomination, and one of the highlights of what he said is, there is never a doubt about commitment, and that is ever so true when I reflect upon my short tenure with Vice President McElhaney. So it was, again, a great tone to start off the year. And there were some new committee assignments and an establishment of some existing ones. Do you mind if we go through that list real quick? First of all, Administrative and Human Resources Committee is new. We have
a new chair. It's not a new committee, and Rick Churchill will be chairing that. And Commissioner McGuire will be his vice chair on that one.
We also have some changes with building and planning.
Yeah, we figured we would do something new and different, and I have been giving a lot of thought to the fact that presidency requires a lot of energy, time, and focus, and while I love it and it is my area of expertise, it'd be nice if I didn't have to manage the whole thing, and I think that really Phil Rosenzweig is the next person I would look to as somebody who really understands land use and land use regulations, and so I thought that together, if we did it together, that would be a good thing, and he was willing to do that. So
yes, and we've already seen him in action, and you both have a commitment to running those meetings, keeping them going. So we as staff who sit sometimes applaud the keeping it going. Economic revitalization?
Yes, another one that I was chairing that I really would like to be able to have more diversity and people who are really active, and Cheryl's great at
Cheryl
this.
Galber.
Cheryl, Commissioner Galber is totally committed to the business districts. Ardmore's in her district, and she's been amazingly supportive of those efforts, so I think she'll be a wonderful chair.
And then our Finance Committee continues to be chaired.
That's right, by Vice President McElhaney.
Then our Fire Committee.
Yes, Commissioner Churchill was a vice chair, and he really, Penn Fire Company is near and dear to his heart, and he should be chairing it, I think, at this point.
And Commissioner Lindner continues with Grants and Community Development. Our Health Committee,
I think, is still Commissioner Gould.
Yeah. And Intergovernmental Relations,
Commissioner McGuire, because he has had many experiences with many levels of government, so I think he'll be great to have in the role.
And then there's the Legal Affairs Committee.
Oh, yes, we couldn't get anybody any better than Commissioner Bernheim.
Library Committee.
We couldn't change that. I think that Commissioner Manos has done an amazing job with that. And we have lots going on that I would not want him out of the role of.
And Open Space.
Well, I think that Commissioner Rosenzweig's done a great job, and he should continue in that.
As well as Parks and Recreation.
Commissioner Zeloff.
One of the things about Commissioner Zeloff, he actually does his own TV show with Lindsay Taylor, our Director of Parks and Recreation, to help continue to educate. And of course, that invitation is always open to our commissioners to help educate our citizens about their various committee assignments. And the Police Committee.
Commissioner Gordon has been very interested and committed to putting more time into the township, and I think that his experience and background will be really great for the Police Committee.
Public Works Committee.
Commissioner Delheim I would not want her to give up that chair.
She has a real heart for the Public Works Committee and has done such a great job. Even shows up at our sometimes 5 a.m. Public Works breakfast to thank our crews for their jobs well done. The Telecommunications Committee. I used to work actually with Commissioner Jenny Brown on the Cable Committee.
That's right.
And so now she is serving as chair of Telecommunications. And Township Properties is Rick Churchill. So that's just a brief overview. You can see all of the committee assignments right on our website. We just wanted to apprise you of some of the changes, because also if you as a citizen have a question, these are your go-to people.
Either the committee chair or your commissioner.
Absolutely. And of course staff. In fact, you don't have to call your commissioner if you can call the Public Works Department and get an answer to your question right away. We are here to serve you.
Absolutely.
So
and
there you go. Yes. So last time we got together, there had not yet been a budget passed, but we still had good news in that the proposed budget was a 0% tax increase, township tax increase budget, 0%. This was sort of a goal you had set out at the very beginning of last year. Mission accomplished.
Yes, thank you to all of the commissioners and the board members and our township manager for making reality, the goal of reality. So we have 0% tax increase in the real estate, and also held constant on the trash fees, solid
waste fees have also remained at the 2011 levels. Now, on top of that, so the board passed the 2012 budget December 21st, prior to the budget being approved, but after the budget being proposed.
We had amazing news. Amazing.
The kind of news you sort of pinch yourself and say, is this really happening? Why don't you share with our viewers?
Well, we always have adjustments in, plus and minus in the revenues, and this year we had a huge plus because we had business privilege tax adjustments that were made and payments that were made that resulted in a surplus of $6.9 million.
This is unbudgeted income to the general fund.
One-time money.
One-time money, approximately $6.9 million. And so what a wonderful circumstance to find yourselves in.
Really great opportunity for us to now take a deep breath and look at how we can how that money should be best utilized. I mean, it's really important. You know, we've been in really tight times. This is money we should have had available to us, but didn't. So we've been drawing down on the equipment fund, and we've been, you know, scrunching here and there. We won't have to now. We'll have a really careful look at all of our options and come up with some good recommendations.
And that really was your suggestion. Let's take a deep breath, let's step back, and let's have a process by which we can look at this money and say what's the best use or the best value for our citizens. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about that. Stay with us. Welcome back to Behind the Gavel. Of course, we're here with Board President Elizabeth Rogan. We left leading into the break with the great news that we had a 0% township tax increase budget passed, and the wonderful circumstance of an unbudgeted approximately $6.9 million added to the general fund budget.
What a terrible problem.
It's a terrible problem, and so to address that terrible problem, there's going to be a workshop.
Yes, we have a subcommittee set up of the board, and any member of the board, any member of the public are all invited to attend. We have a workshop set up for the 25th of this month at 6 o'clock. And basically to look at, first to get, you know, an understanding of what all the different options are, because we don't have I'm sure that not everybody has a good handle on all the different options. Everybody has their own ideas. We discussed one of them in December, but there's lots of others. And so, you know, there's lots of debt, potentially pay down the debt. There's capital projects. There's the equipment fund that we've been shorting. There's all sorts of, you know, options. So I think that I'm looking forward to, anyway, understanding what the range of options are, and then do an evaluation, and then come back and discuss which one's the best one.
And this will just be the beginning of that public process. There's a tentatively scheduled second workshop on Wednesday, February 22nd, 2012, also at 6 p.m. So we'll keep a discussion going. The goal, we have this fund balance policy, and so the goal will be then to use the funds to keep us within that fund balance policy.
Right, and the fund balance policy is a goal. It's not a law. It's it's something that we really try and carefully use to monitor our law. It's a planning tool, and you know, this surplus one-time money has put us over that goal. So now we're going to come up with a plan for how to make it, you know, the most appropriate use of the money for the longest period of time.
You said that word plan.
Oh, plan.
And I want to jump to one of your favorite topics, because we are very intent on updating the comprehensive plan in Lower Merion Township, but we need the help of our citizens. And there's still time to volunteer to be on one of the committees that has been established, where you can volunteer your input, your expertise, your passion for this community, and take part.
That's right, and it's, if we're going to have a plan that reflects the community, only reflects the community when the community participates. So, you know, we have elected representatives, we have appointed representatives, all of those individuals can participate and should participate, but it will only be as good a plan as people are willing to commit to it. So there's 5 subcommittees that were established.
Okay.
Actually, the period to apply to be on the committees was extended. It was supposed to be at the end of the year, but now it's the end of this month of January. So January 31st, I think. Yes. And there's, you know, an application online, and you can say where that is.
Yeah, you can actually go right to topical issues on our township website, www.lowermerion.org. Go to comprehensive plan, and you can download an application there. Get it back in before January 31st. That would be wonderful. Can we do a quick review of some of those committees?
Yeah, there's, and actually the people who have already submitted an application, there's a preponderance of interest in the first two, which is land use and housing. But there are 3 others. There's land use and housing.
Right.
There's circulation.
Circulation basically refers to
however you get around, people or things. And it's a wide variety of things, like not only our highways, streets, local streets, but it's also the railroads. It's bike and pedestrian circulation systems. It's how do we get around? And if we want to have a sustainable community, that's a really big issue. And bikes have been something we talked a lot about for the City Avenue issue, something that I hope that a lot of people will focus on. We will be using a consultant to help us with that, but really we need the residents to be participating in all varied interests. More interest, the more diversity of interest, the better the final solution will end up being.
Excellent. And then there's also community facilities and infrastructure.
Well, that's community facilities. We have so many different things. It's not just a residential community. It's institutions. It's things like our hospitals, educational institutions, our stormwater facilities, and the treatment plants, the police and fire services. All of that needs to be looked at and pulled together so that we can make sure that we're going to be able to serve the community in the future. And then the Energy and Water Resources Conservation subgroup will be looking at just those types of things, our sustainability, and the Environmental Advisory Council is playing a really key part of that. But we'll make that effort even better is if the residents participate as well that are not normally active in the township's committee. And each of the different committees will be meeting at different times for different periods. Originally, the application or the information on the committee said that they would be meeting during the day, and that really was a concern to some.
Sure, people have jobs and people want to volunteer as well, so there's more flexibility now in this approach.
Yes, and so I think that what I just want to make sure everybody knows is that, the goal is to have them at times when we can have them staffed and have a room available for everybody to meet. So it can't be during our short number of meetings that we have. So, if it could be early in the morning or at the end of a work day or at 6 o'clock. But once the committee gets established, they'll set up their own pattern based on the availability of those people who are on it. So get those applications in, update your resume, send in your resume with the application and a cover letter, and it'll be great to see a lot of people apply.
And why are we doing this? Basically to supercharge the effort. Right. And, basically a gauntlet was thrown down. Let's get this done.
That's right.
Let's get it done in like a year. So with every committee concurrently working on these different committees, we can get to that goal.
We can. I think that the product will be different than what we would do if we were going to go with the original way. And so this will be an overview, and this will be our longer term goals from the 50,000 foot level as opposed to the nitty gritty, how are we going to get it done. So when people talk about ordinances or they talk about controlling specific things on a lot, that's not what the comprehensive plan is all about. Right. The comprehensive plan is where do we see ourselves big picture in the future.
Big picture, yeah. And I have to also say, a lot of communities spend a lot of money hiring consultants to do comp plans.
Oh, yeah.
And this is not something the township's doing. It's basically being staff-driven and community volunteer support to get this done without the big price tags. So.
Well, I've worked on many of them, and they cost, 6 figures.
Oh, yeah. That's true. So this is another fiscally responsible approach for the township to take in this. We also want to provide an update regarding libraries. As you know, Ludington, it's looking more and more beautiful every day. We know that we're nearing the finish line on that. But now the next stage has been the closure of the Bala Library. We want to make sure that citizens are aware that there's still many options for your library needs to be met in the township.
Right. Once we agreed to go ahead with Bala, Bala was closed at the end of the year, last day of the year, last day of Bala for the next about a year, maybe a little bit more. Yeah. And my family is going through library withdrawal because we're used to going to the two big libraries, but we have many other libraries, and there's been a real effort made for Saturday and Sunday hours being provided at the Ardmore Library. And the library annex in Ardmore is being expanded and available. I was watching people use
the computers in that annex, which is right next to the Ardmore Library, and you can get used to, accessing that facility. Remember, Narberth Library is also available.
That's right.
Lower Merion Library System is redeploying people and resources to make the pain a little bit less for those of you who are Bala Cynwyd Library patrons.
Story times are being expanded at both Penn and
Belmont Hills Library.
Good.
Yes,
So
in fact, beginning later this month, additional children's story hours are offered at both of those libraries, which is a great thing. And most books and materials can be reserved electronically through to any McLink Library, which is the Montgomery County group that we are a part of. The bottom line is a little bit of pain, a little bit of inconvenience. What we're going to get to, though, is so many needed improvements.
Oh, well, I mean, if you don't like rain, then, you know, you won't have to worry about going up to the second floor of the Bala Library.
And you would know because you're a patron of the library. So
I'm a patron of all of them. But, but it was embarrassing to be at the Bala Library sometimes when you see the blue tarps. And so the improvements are really to fix the problems. And we'll have a state-of-the-art HVAC system with a geothermal system. It's very exciting.
And more space.
More better usable space.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a great design and layout, and it's going to bring us into the 21st century. It's exciting.
So hopefully this time next year we'll be talking about a grand opening for the Bala Cynwyd Library, and of course we will be providing updates on Ludington and getting close to a grand opening for that as well. We're running out of time. I also wanted to let our citizens know that they normally could pick up a DVD of a township meeting at the Bala Cynwyd Library. So we now are making those available at the Penn Library as well as Ardmore Library. If you missed one of those Gavel to Gavel live televised meetings, and people really are watching.
They do watch.
Yes.
I get stopped in the grocery store.
Right. So you can catch it at the library, if not one of our replays. Also, the Public Information Office has learned that even though people really like their annual report calendar, they weren't used to getting their recycling information that way.
On the calendar.
So everybody's saying, where's my recycling brochure? So we are. I promise you, we're creating one that will be hand-delivered to homes this month. People need their recycling information because we have a great recycling program in Lower Merion.
Yes, and it generates lots of money for our refuse and recycling expenditures. It's a good thing. So are the crews going to be delivering those when they pick up the trash?
Right. We try to reduce postage costs wherever possible. So our crews are nice enough. They're going to pick up your trash, drop off one of the brochures, which will include all your recycling information as well as a handy clip and save schedule so that you know when your day is. And if you ever don't know anything, you can always visit our website.
That's right. An amazing website, a wonderful website.
Yes.
I thank you all.
Our Information Services Department does a great job keeping it fed with information.
And up to date and really incredible. And I know that there's a plea to get to 1,000.
We had a newsletter article in end of November, I think it was early December, where we're like, we want to get to 1,000 e-subscribers. Right now, as we are having this conversation, we are at 980.
Ooh.
So it's a landmark. And you know what? Truthfully, 1,000 out of 24,000 homes isn't a lot. Yeah. We'd love to get to that 20,000 mark, so we could stop mailing things.
Right.
But in the meantime,
it's so easy. You just click on the button on the home page. It's really easy and very helpful, and it's the way to get the information fast.
Especially as we're heading into weather season, you never know what kind of weather challenges we'll face. Information directly to your inbox. Terrific. Any last words, Board President Rogan, before we run out of time?
No, thank you so much. I'm really honored. It's exciting, and I'm looking forward to a good year where we'll have lots of good things to celebrate and more accomplishments to look back at.
And thank you for always giving us your time and sharing good information with our viewers. We appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in too, and Happy New Year. We'll see you again next month right here on Behind the Gavel.